Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you, Refuel fam. Wesley here, just another daily devotion to encourage you for today. I'd like to read from Philippians chapter 3, verse 10. It says, I want to know Christ. Yes, to know the power of his resurrection and participation in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death. You know, that's an interesting thing to say, I want to know Jesus. In the first part, yes, all of us want the power of his resurrection in our life to change us and transform us. But then for Paul to say, sharing in his sufferings and becoming like him in his death is a profound statement and a courageous statement. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but the death of Jesus on the cross teaches us so much about how God relates to us in suffering. I think there's this interconnected relational reality to the suffering of Jesus and the suffering that we experience in our life. And I just wanted to give you a real quick, because I'm trying to do this in a few minutes, connection about how the cross informs us, how God relates to us in suffering. So take note of these 5 things. Number 1, when Jesus was on the cross, and I think this is some of why Paul said what he said, it teaches me that God cares about us in our suffering. Think about this. The fact that Jesus would even leave heaven to come to earth and die on a cross is a loud proclamation that God cares about us in our pain. And that's essentially what 2 Corinthians 1, 3, and 4 says in relationship to the character and nature of God, where it says that God is the Father of compassion and God of all comfort. He cares about you in everything that you're going through in life. Every valley, every dark day, every painful moment, God cares about you. Second, God is with us. As Jesus is dying on the cross, it's the ultimate statement that God is with us. He's with us literally to the point of death. He's with us literally to the point that he's willing to take our punishment upon himself. And anytime that you're walking through a valley, sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it can feel like in our own brain that God is not with us, but that's not true. I love Psalm 23, one of the most famous Psalms that, as far as we know, or pop culture knows. It says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because you are with me. God is with me in every moment of darkness, every shadow of death. He is always with us. So I want you to know you're never alone. He was with you so much that he came to die for you. Third, God is for us. The cross definitively declares that God is for us. God saw us in all of our messiness and all of our humanness, and he said, you have value, so much so that I want to be with you for all of eternity. So I'm going to come to this earth, die on a cross as a statement that I am for you and not against you. I love Romans 8, 31 and 32. It says this, if God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? This is a statement of hope. Like every tough time, every season of consternation in your soul, be reminded that on the cross, God is declaring, I am for you. Number 4, God is working in us. When we suffer and when we're in pain, we might think, oh, God's done with me, or God can't use my life, or God can't do anything in and through my life. But the fact that the greatest moment of pain ended up being the greatest moment of redemptive good in history, that's the cross of Jesus, teaches you and I that at the greatest moments of hardship, suffering, trial, and pain, God can redemptively do something beautiful like he did in the cross and use it for good is a statement that God is working in us. And that's what Romans 8:28 says. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Can I just encourage you today? God loves you. Whatever you're going through today, whatever you've been going through in this season, God loves you. And that's the reality of the cross. And then finally, God understands us. Jesus understood suffering to a degree that no human being will ever understand. He reached the depths of suffering. He experienced trauma to a degree that no one in all of human history will ever suffer to that degree. And thus, whenever I'm going through a really hard season of life, he understands everything that I'm going through. In fact, Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15 says that Jesus is our high priest who sympathizes with our weaknesses. He is a God who gets it. He's a God who's been through it. He's a God who's experienced it. And there's a beautiful thing when you and I suffer and we meet somebody that is also suffering. We just get it. And I want to encourage you, he just gets it. He is the best person to go to in moments of pain. Attach yourself to Jesus in the hard seasons of life, and you will find a compassion and an empathy and a he gets it reality in your relationship with him that nobody will ever understand to the depths that he understands what you're going through. I hope that encourages you today. Have an amazing day and week ahead. Much love.